What's going on, guys? It's King's Cuts. Thanks again for visiting the channel. Today we're here with Sean. We're going to be doing a high taper on the sides. For the back, we're going to be leaving this long because he's trying to grow this into a mullet as well. We're also going to be trimming some of this and getting it into a textured look. We're going to be doing some powder, and we're also going to throw in some clay so that way it gives it a good amount of volume. So yeah, let's get started. For the first main section to get the taper started on the sides, we first have to section the top to make sure that any of this fallout here we can cut and not be affected by how the top is going to look. All right, so for this first section, I layered the top into the ridge, into the side. It's nice and wet, so where if I do anything, it's just going to bounce back down because the weight of the water is pushing down. We're first going to start with our 2 guard, and we're going to be using a taper comb. We're going to be knocking down some of this bulk before we start our fade process. I always like to start with a higher guard because you can always take more hair off. You can't put hair back on. For this section, we're not going to be cutting the top half. We're just going to be cutting some of the sides where it falls down here. We're going to use the weight of the taper comb into the 2 to get a nice section of where I'm going to stop my fade. Remember not to go too far down because he's going to be going into a mullet. We're only going to be doing an outline here with our Babyliss. So here's going to be our open, no guard. And we're making sure to flick out, get our line centered. Right about half a finger length. If I do a finger here, half of that would be our closed. From our closed position, we can then go and use our Babyliss Trimmers to get rid of all this weight down here. I don't have to go in here with a closed or an open because all this weight can be taken down with trimmers. After we do that, we're going to be going in with our Balders. Down first to get rid of some of the weight, then we're going to go up. So that way it's balded out. We'll go back in with open. Then we can go in halfway, just lightly corner notching it. If you want, you can use the whole edge of the blade. You can use the entire length of it because it is going to be a high taper. If it was a medium or a low taper, we'd only be corner notching because it's going to be able to spread out and you're able to get into higher areas without affecting the fade. After that's done, we're gonna jump into our 1. The reason we're gonna be jumping into our 1 is because it's gonna put a stopgap for us. It's gonna have a line right in between the 2 and 1.5, but also from the 1/16 to the no guard. The more visuals that you can see lines, it's going to be able to tell you how to take them away. After I put the 1 in, I know that this is going to be a 1.5. From 1.5, it's going to be a 2. From where the 1 is, we still have a 1/16 line or a half guard. We're then going to close it. Then we're going to be using our half or 1/16 right here to get this line out. First, open. Then close. After that, we are then going to be using our 1.5. We're going to go in from a 1/4 inch up and continuously going in through the layers because we don't want to take out a huge chunk. Next thing you know, it's too much, and then we're going to have to restart the fade. So always go in 1/4 inch each time. 1/4 inch, go up a little bit, 1/4 inch, go up a little bit, 1/4 inch. That way, as I get into the sectioning, you're going to notice that this is going to get lighter, but it's not going too far up to where the top is too short. Again, 1/4 inch. One more time, 1/4 inch. One more time, 1/4 inch. And again, 1/4 inch. We're going to be doing this until we get this blended into the sides, into the back. When we're doing clipper over comb, remember to keep your comb angled out. You don't have to keep it completely straight, otherwise you're going to keep pushing the line higher. What you want to do is get the angle touching the base of your canvas, so his head, then angling out 45 degrees, so that way it's almost fully out, but not quite. And then that's how you use your guideline, 1/4 inch, keep going higher, so that way instead of pushing the line up, you're going through a blend, almost like you're flicking out with your comb. When we're using trimmers, make sure to only get 25% of the blade. You don't need to use the entirety of the blade because you're going to be putting in lines that you don't need to. All right guys, for the top here, we're going to have a straight down but messy look. So in order to do that, we're going to be sectioning off our main, middle, and then right and left. How I like to do this is to go in for our initial guideline, so that way I know how to create the left and right to be equal. Is we go down the middle, find out exactly how much I want. We're going to be taking around 3-4 inches off. We're going to do our first initial guideline here, and then continuously work our way back here. How I know to take off what we usually did from the first initial guideline is if in between here you can see the lines that I cut, and then I use that to measure the rest. I get somewhat of an idea here, use that weight and that precision cut that I did to then see in between the hairs, and I can see where my guidelines were. Same thing all the way back. We then section off the right and then left. The head is round shaped, so we're going to start angling it down. Here as an angle, we're going to be using this top half of where I already cut one end to the other, and we're going to do small guidelines for the rest of the head. And it should just be a follow through. The same thing on the right and left side. All right, finishing our cut, we're going to be doing some Suavecito clay on top. First, while the hair is damp, we're going to spread it evenly all the way throughout our hand and palm, and we're just going to be able to use that method of putting it pretty much all over the top half of his head. The clay is going to be used to thicken the top, so that way it can push wherever we want it to, but also give it a nice volume for the top half of his head. Our blow dryer is going to be on its lowest speed but highest heat, and we're going to go from the calic on the way back, and we're just going to brush forward and making it lay on the head how we want it to. You should be able to see in the video all the different types of textures and layers that it has. It's not all completely even, and that's exactly the textured look we're going for. Making sure that not everything is even, but a nice textured messy look. So that way when Sean is going to school, he can just wake up, rub his hands through it, and have a nice textured look. He doesn't need to put any product on if he doesn't want to. On top of that, reapply water, go in with our wide tooth comb, and we can go to the back calic and just spread this out. Different directions to give it a nice messy look so everything doesn't look uniform. But has a nice pattern in the back. All right guys, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video of the high taper with the mullet and textured top. If you guys want to see more videos like this, subscribe to King's Cuts, and I'll see you on the next one.